Hey, how's it going? Today I'm talking about Proof of Time Half Marathon Training weeks 5 and 6. This is Running to the Castle, a podcast for slow, back-of-the-pack Run Disney runners on a journey to running magical miles. Join me, Dr. Allie, as I share the secrets I've gathered as a runner, doctor of physical therapy, and coach. You'll learn the exact ways I get my clients to the castle strong, have a bigger buffer ahead of the balloon ladies, and have time to stop for character photos. Keep listening if your goal is to PR in fun, cross the finish line without feeling broken, and have energy to enjoy the Disney parks. So I had a little bit of a blunder. I meant to schedule podcast episodes for, at the time of recording this, it was last week, but for 2 weeks ago at the time that this comes out. And whoopsie doodle, that did not happen. That's okay. Life happens. I had recorded 2 episodes, thought I had edited and scheduled them. That is not the case. That is not what happened. And this just goes to show that this stuff's not the end of the world, right? Same with running, not the end of the world if you miss a workout. And that's really what I'm going to talk about this week on this episode. But um, it didn't happen. And so I posted them last week and I just happened to miss a week of episodes. I'm so sorry for the lack of episode because I do know that I have some very regular listeners. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry that there was a mishap. I really did think that I had edited and scheduled them. It didn't happen. Oh well. But this may give you some clarification on why that happened. So weeks 5 and 6, I am doing these episodes together because they are going to be boring. Spoiler alert, I didn't work out at all in week 5 or in week 6. It did not happen. Well, actually, no, that is a lie. I worked out one day in week 6, and I'm going to tell you all about it. So week 5, that was the week starting June 1st, Monday, June 1st. And this week, we had to have work done on our shower. So for anybody who's new here, I moved into a new build home in October. Well, we closed in September. We moved in October. We had some work done, like painting the house and just a few odds and ends done before we moved in. We moved in officially at the beginning of October. And the way a new build works is you have a 1-year warranty on pretty much everything. I'm sure there's some kind of stipulation in there, but for all intents and purposes, everything. And so if anything comes up, you just contact the builder and they come and look at it. They see if they can fix it. And if they can, they will. If they can't, they won't. So as an example, when we first moved in, the air conditioning in our primary bedroom did not work. They came out, they supposedly fixed it, and it seemed to work fine. I say supposedly because you'll hear part of that story. Fixed it, that was fine. We had electrical outlets that weren't turned on. Before we moved in, they had forgot to put the backsplash in our kitchen, which we had bought and paid for. And luckily, we noticed that on the last walkthrough, so they did that before we even moved in. But as part of that, they had to turn off the electrical outlets on that wall and did not turn them back on. So we found that out when we moved in, and you call them and do this. So anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that in our primary bathroom, otherwise known as a master bathroom, I use primary bathroom. The main bath that's attached to mine and Royal's bedroom. And so we have a stand-up shower. It has a ledge, they call it a curb, and then there's glass on top of that. And so at the corner of this curb, there is grout and tile meets together. So where that grout and that tile met was opening. The tile was not broken. There actually was no crack in the grout, but it was separating. And it was very obvious to even me that it hadn't cured properly, or there was just a small gap when they put it in and water was getting in and then expanding the wood that's underneath it and making this open up. The moment I noticed it, I put in a work order request and they were out within the week to come look at it. They came and looked at it on Friday. Then they had to order pieces. They had to order more tile because they had to take out all of that tile and they needed to order more. So that took about a week to come in. So then they were going to start on Monday, June 1st. Great, no problem. With this, if you've ever had work done on your house, it is constant bustle. People are going in and out. People are calling you constantly. You're trying to communicate with some people who don't speak the same language as you, and you don't speak the same language as them. And this could be going for multiple languages amongst multiple people. This supposedly was such a big job that it required a customer service representative from our builder on site during this whole process. And thank God she was there. Jean was a godsend to us for this week. And she was very helpful. At times, I felt like she was pushing back on questions we had, but that is also her job, where she has to make sure that she's doing right by the company and by us. I get it. Nobody was mean, nothing like that. But there were times where I was just like, don't tell me my opinion. We don't do that. But for the most part, like, thank God she was there. And we have chairs in our bedroom. And so she just sat in those chairs all week with her iPad doing whatever kind of work that she needed to do. But she kept on top of the people who were there, and she made sure people were coming in and out and they were doing what they needed to do. And so this was just constant bustle from 8 a.m. to it was supposed to be 4 p.m. But most days, everybody stayed later than that. And Jean could not stay later than that. She was not approved to stay past 4. So we had to, kind of monitor how things were going. So I was trying to manage new Stronger, Faster Finisher member signups. And I had already planned a large gap between Stronger, Faster Finisher signups and when the program officially starts. And it may seem weird to sign up for a program and then have to wait 3 weeks, because that's about how long they had to wait. I do it that way for the sole reason that historically, it takes me 6 to 8 hours to program per person that signs up. And that is, a good average. Some people actually take longer and some people it goes faster. So it takes a long time to program. And I'm so happy to do it. I'm so happy to do it because I love like getting somebody on the right program for what they need to do for their training. But it does take a long time. So that's why it's 3 weeks, because I anticipated I would have about 15 people sign up for Stronger, Faster Finisher. Spoiler alert, 34 new people signed up. Okay, I'm interrupting the episode for a second because I am recording this in 2 parts by accident, not planned. Like, it's not really an accident, but I had to do it. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it's a different day. I am wearing different clothes. My hair is done differently. It's different. So while I was recording this podcast episode, I got a phone call from Royal. And I even thought, you know what? I'm just going to let this ring and I'll call him back after. But something told me to pause and answer. And I did. And I ended up spending the rest of the day taking him to the doctor and to get an x-ray of his hand. He fell, and I was not with him at the time, so I had to go get him. Luckily, he did not hit his head. He's a little bruised up, a little sore. We did get an x-ray of his hand and his wrist. The results still aren't in, and it's a little confusing because we went to I called his doctor and I said, should we come see you or should we go to urgent care? And he said, come see me. I can order the x-ray. You can go do a walk-in x-ray at such and such facility, do the walk-in x-ray, and then come see me later today and we should have the results and I'll be able to read it and we can go from there. Well, by the time it was all said and done, he didn't have the results. And we really thought that he would have. He didn't. We still don't have the results and it's a couple of days later. And so we think something got screwed up because we were a walk-in and they told us that there would be a wait. Well, we waited 2 hours and you probably just gasped at that because maybe we shouldn't have waited 2 hours, and we shouldn't have. So here's the thing, because it wasn't urgent care, it was just an imaging center, X-rays, MRIs, CT, mammogram, like they do all sorts of imaging there. And they had told us, since you're a walk-in, it's going to be a wait. Have a seat. We'll get to you when we get to you, essentially. And so we had no idea what a wait would mean. Is that 30 minutes? Is it an hour? So finally 2 hours went by and the waiting room was packed. Like there was barely anywhere to sit. At first, Royal and I couldn't both sit. And then finally, like some space cleared out. We went and sat. And we planned to be there for a while because we knew we would have to wait. So I had crochet. He had his phone. He's just watching it. He's in a lot of pain and we're just waiting. So then finally at the 2 hour mark, I went up to the front desk and I was like, do we have an update on walk-in x-rays? We've been here, we checked in at this time, and now it's this time. The look on the lady's face was like, oh, shoot, we forgot about you. That kind of look. And she was like, we're going to get you right back. And so she did. And the x-ray tech was like, I am so sorry. I can't believe, like, I don't know what happened. And turns out there was some kind of glitch in the check-in system, and he never got pushed forward in the system. Like we checked in, we handed back the paperwork, but the next step never happened. And so he didn't get pushed through that he was ready to be seen. So we shouldn't have waited 2 hours. Should I have gone up sooner? Maybe, but it was so busy in there that there almost was no time to go up to the desk and ask that question. And other people had been going up and asking, and I will say the receptionist there was not nice. The one that was fielding the question most of the time was like, we'll get to you when we get to you kind of response. And so didn't really invite me to go up. But should I have checked in before 2 hours? Yeah, probably. You live and you learn. It was better than having to go to an urgent care because at least these people aren't actively sick, right? Like they don't have a cold, the flu, COVID, whatever. Like my husband is immunocompromised. He takes medication, so his immune system is wiped out. We did not want to have to go and sit in a scenario like that. So at least sitting and waiting in a standard outpatient imaging only center where people are less likely to be contagious was a win for us. And we understand that like this kind of stuff happens. There's waits, like it's walk in. We get it. So should we have waited 2 hours? No, because the x-ray tech was like, essentially, I'm bored back here. Everybody else, it seems like, was doing MRIs, CTs, and stuff like that. But you live and you learn. Next time I will go up sooner. Anyway, well, I hope there's not a next time. Oh, gosh. I've been joking all week. Royal, you must have been thinking I am just bored. Allie is bored. She's not busy enough. Let's mix it up a little bit. I jest. He knows I'm kidding. We joke about these kinds of things. Overall, we think I don't know. He's overall doing okay. We don't know if it's broken. But since there was this glitch in the system, they actually canceled his appointment. So now he's getting emails, text messages, phone calls saying, hey, it's time to schedule your x-ray. We already did it. So we're worried that it didn't get pushed down the line to get read. So now we have to call. And there just have been no minutes in the day this week. This is, these past 3 weeks have been hectic for us with the shower and the AC unit. And I will talk about that in a second. And then now it's been hectic. So when we saw the doctor, he was like, okay, well, I don't think it's broken. And this is going to sound weird. I do trust the doctor's opinion, like as a whole. But in this specific instance, the reason he said it's not broken, I have pause with because he said, because I can touch it, it's not broken. And people with high pain tolerances walk on broken bones in their feet all of the time. They use broken hands all of the time. Royal won't let me touch it, but he did let the doctor touch it. And I could see him wincing through the pain and being like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And me having been with him for 14 years, married, next week it will be 10 years. I know the man. He is not fine. So maybe it's not broken, but something more than just like a minor muscle pull or bump on the wrist, I do believe is going on. And I have experience with this as a physical therapist. I I know what it looks like. I not to toot my own horn, I have caught many things. I have caught broken bones on people before. I have caught ligament tears on people before. I have caught muscle tears on people before. I have caught a brain tumor in somebody and I have caught somebody actively having a stroke. I don't think that this is as minor as they're letting on. And maybe it's only because Royal's body has no system to fight even a minor injury. So if it happened to me, it would be a minor injury, but for him, it's not. So anyway, the pain, it's been a couple of days. The pain has not gotten better. The pain is still bad in the middle of the night, which orthopedic injuries, broken bone, muscle strains, tears, ligament sprains, tears, those get worse in the middle of the night. We're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to finally get these x-ray results read, but he still has decreased range of motion. He still can't put full weight through it. He still is just so ginger with it. Even like drying himself off with a towel out of the shower, putting on lotion, he will hold that hand still and rub it with his other hand or like washing his hand. He's keeping that hand still and like using his other hand to wash it, but not actively using that hand. So there's avoidance techniques here. Anyway, that's a lot of information to say. This is why this is a 2-part episode. So please forgive the interruption and the lack of coherence to this episode. I'm going to try and pick up where I left off. And I basically was saying that I have all these new Stronger, Faster, Finisher members. And if you join Stronger, Faster, Finisher, thank you so much. Welcome. There is a large gap between when you signed up and when you start because it takes me so long to program for everybody. And it is going faster because I have implemented some new changes, but it takes me 6 to 8 hours per person to program. And that's if I have all of the information. And so that's why there's a 3-week gap between when you sign up and when Stronger, Faster, Finisher actually starts. And so I was doing that. Plus, I was dealing with the shower during week 4. And so I got 0 workouts done. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. It's not even close. Not even close. I made every day a rest day, and I made the long run be a deload week. So normally I recommend a deload week every 5 to 6 weeks. That's how it's built into the training plan. But you can move them to whenever they need to be. So this week 5, was not supposed to be a deload week. It was supposed to be another week. Next week, actually week 6. I just bumped it up a week and that's okay. And now in my Stronger, Faster, Finisher group, it automatically updates. So if you choose deload week in your training schedule, it will automatically update your next forever weeks of training. So I don't have to go in there and be like, okay, well, they made this week a deload week, so that means I need to adjust next week's training. Because if you've been listening for any length of time, you know there is no makeup miles and you don't just skip that week of running, right? If you are following the 10% rule, we can't just go from 5 miles one week, have a deload week, instead of doing 5.5 miles, which would be the 10% increase. Let's say that 5.5 miles we were supposed to change and now it's a deload week. Well, we can't go from 5 miles, do a deload week or skip the week and then go to 6 miles because that 1 mile difference, that's more than 10%. But when we go from 5 to 5.5 to 6, and it would technically be like 6.05 miles, right? If we're doing 10%, because 10% of 5 miles is half mile. So that's 5.5. 10% of that is 0.55. So 5.5 plus 0.55 is 6.05, right? But going from 5 to 6.05, yeah, maybe we can do that one time. But if you keep going on that 10% trajectory in that order, it's going to catch up with you. And it usually catches up with you by week 5 or 6. which is time for another deload week. But now you've been adding on, yes, week after week, you've technically been adding on 10% after the 6.05, but you had that sudden increase before that. So you've overloaded at the top, and then it's still overloaded because you started at the wrong number. Okay. So now, or what used to happen is an SFF runner would say, hey, I missed a week. What should I do next week? And I would have to go in and change all of the long runs. Now I don't do that. You just choose deload week and it automatically adjusts, even if you have to do 2 deload weeks in a row, like I had to do. And so on average, running more and more from starting at the wrong one or not following the 10% rule, that I said 6 weeks earlier, but it's like a 6 to 8 week time frame, which is why I do 6 weeks as the deload week. You're going to notice it. So I made this week 5 a deload week. I should have done 6.2 miles for the long run. The plan, I have it written here. I said I'll do that next week and then just continue following the plan from there. It's fine, right? Like I can't make every week be like that, right? But every once in a while, couple of weeks in a row, it's fine. So then week 6 ended up being shot to you-know-what as well. Because while we were waiting for this shower to be fixed, so they had to tear out our entire shower. They had to tear out the curb. They had to tear out the pan. They had to remud it. They had to re-level it. They had to put in water barrier and build it all back up. So we couldn't use the shower, obviously. Because of that, we used our guest room shower. We still slept in our bedroom, but we used the guest shower. And we noticed how hot it was. And this week 6 of my training, it was 104 degrees most days at its hottest. And so it was toasty in there. So Royal ended up buying one of these readers to see what temperature it was blowing out of the air conditioning. And I put a thermometer in the room. And it was like 20 to 25 degrees hotter in that room than it was in our great room. And it did not make sense because when we moved into this house, it was supposed to be the great room is right next to the guest bedroom. And so that thermostat for there was supposed to handle that room. And we had it blasting and nothing was happening. So called, had HVAC come out, checked it out. When they were there, they saw that the units had been installed backwards. We have 2 air conditioning units. One is a bigger unit, one is a smaller unit, depending on what part of the house it's going to. So they were installed backwards. So the smaller unit was going to the bigger part of the house, and the bigger unit was going to the smaller part of the house. In the ceiling, in the attic, they also swapped the coils. I don't know what those are, but they said they swapped the coils. They were going to the wrong units. Those are the things I think that connect to the thermostat. So we weren't actually controlling the correct units there either. And on top of all of that, there was a leak in the HVAC system. The Freon was leaking out somewhere toward the end of the unit near where the units are in our yard, in our side yard. So they had to come back because they couldn't do the work on the day that they found it out because it was going to be a whole day's worth of work. Well, we also had to go out of town. We travel out of town for my husband's health care. We go to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and it was time to go for some tests, and he gets Botox for migraines. So off we went. The guest room was going to be used by our guest, our dog sitter. So we told her, we were like, if it gets too hot, that is an emergency. Like if it's stifling and you can't handle it, the great room AC does work. So you can sleep there or call us and we will put in an emergency call. I could not stress enough how much of an emergency it being too hot would be for her, and to just blast the AC if she had to or call us. I think I spent 10 minutes talking to her about this. I think I freaked her out, but to me, it is an emergency. I have no idea what her situation is. Can she control her own temperature? Like, can she regulate? I don't know, right? And it's an emergency with it being this hot. So I was like, we do what you need to do on the air to make it so that you're cold. Sleep where you need to sleep. and call me if you need it. And she made it work. We had lots of fans. They hung out in the great room most of the day. She kind of just followed wherever Levi went. If Levi left the bedroom, she was like, I left the bedroom, because he clearly was going to seek out where it was cooler. And so we did that. And then when we came back, they were supposed to come on Wednesday to come fix the AC. And we got a call. Oh, no, they did come on Wednesday, and they were supposed to do the test, and they were supposed to swap the AC unit. So they came. They were supposed to be done by 4 p.m. Well, 5 p.m. rolls around, and they're just finishing up. And they were like, okay, well, we'll be back at 8 a.m. tomorrow. So we were like, oh my God, like, it's still not fixed. They had swapped the AC units. They hadn't found the leak yet. And they hadn't finished switching the coils. They'd done a lot of the work, but hadn't finished. So we were like, okay, see you at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Like, this is not ideal, but what else are we going to do? Well, at 8 o'clock the next day, we get a phone call. Hey, other emergencies came up. We aren't going to be able to come out today. Earliest is tomorrow, friend. I was livid. I was so mad. I was shaking. This has gone on for so long. And I got on the phone and I said, you're telling me that new emergencies have popped up, and you're telling me that my emergency is no longer an emergency, even though you caused it 9 months ago when you built this house. This is not something that we did, and you started to fix it, and now you're just going to leave in the middle of it? And she was like, I know, I understand. It's just they've already put out crews for the other stuff, and there's nobody else. And I said, well, and then Royal took the phone and he goes, okay, that's fine. That's fine. We're going to call another AC company and we'll just send you guys the bill. That's fine. We'll talk to you later. And she goes, no. Wait, whoa. Don't do that. And lo and behold, they could be there within half an hour. So they came on Thursday and they finished up switching the coils, and then they're searching for the leak. Well, then we hear that they need to cut into our stucco to search for the leak because it's going to be in the wall right near the AC units that are outside. And we're like, nope. Can't you go from the inside? Because fixing drywall is a lot easier than going through the stucco and the chicken wire and then getting people back in to fix it and stucco it again and get the colors to match in 105-degree heat. So Royal said, can't we just do it from the inside? And they were like, oh, yeah, you're okay doing that? And we said, yes. So we have an IKEA closet, and it's set up in our closet, and that's where the AC units are on the other side of. So we had to pull out 2 units. They had to cut this big hole in it. It was a big production. Where do you think they found the leak? If you follow me on Instagram, you already know the answer. The leak was found outside because they opened up our wall and couldn't find a leak. So they went back outside, sprayed their special soapy soap, and found that the leak was outside the whole time. And walls did not need to be cut into. They did come the next day to fix the drywall and patch it up. And we're like, fine, whatever. So now it's been another whole week of no workouts for me. I couldn't do my long run on Friday like I had planned. It's just been stressful. So instead of doing the long run, on, I think this was Friday, I decided, okay, you know what? I am going to do a walk. I'm going to do a 45-minute walk, and I did, but I procrastinated it, and I was annoyed, and excuse after excuse, whatever. I had 15 minutes. Then I had to have a phone call with Royal with somebody. So 15 minutes. And then right after that, I went back out and I finished up the last 30 minutes. So you can split up your workouts every once in a while to make it work for you. That worked out fine for me. That's what I needed to do to get it done. Overall, is missing 2 weeks of workouts going to make or break me? Absolutely not. Especially because I didn't get out of shape. Right? Like after my last race, I took the normal rest and recovery weeks that I should. That does not take you out of shape. And then I got right back into it. and I was quote unquote recycling miles. If you've been following along, you know that means like I'm not starting all the way back at zero. I can start back at 3.1. I don't have to follow the 10% rule because it's not new miles. I had trained up for the 10 miler at runDisney. And so then I just dropped back down to 3.4, 3.1 or 4 miles. And then I just increased from there. So that's one of the benefits of never taking too long of a break, not taking more than 2 or 3 weeks. 3 weeks is pushing it. That really will need some adjustments to the long run. But about 2 weeks, you're not going to have to make major adjustments. You're going to adjust your speed workouts, your first speed workout back. You're going to adjust your first run back to just like get in the groove of it again instead of like going all out and sprinting. And I'll talk about that for next week on how I adjusted for coming back from it. But it's not going to make or break me. My body won't really notice that much of a difference. So if you've missed a couple of weeks, take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world. Start getting back with the way that you can. If that means 45-minute easy runs, if that means 30-minute easy runs, maybe it just means a 45-minute walk. Do something that's relatively light to jump back into it and get back into it. And if you're in Stronger, Faster, Finisher, just make sure that those weeks that you missed, your long run is marked as deload for the weeks that you missed, because that will adjust your long runs automatically. So then you can be sure that it is a safe amount for you to be running. Thank you so much for listening to this wild adventure of mine with these new build woes. It is very much first world problems. I understand that. But in my life, it has become a problem. But please know that if you have to miss workouts, it's not the end of the world. Do something relatively easy and light for you to get back into it. So then you don't feel excessively sore, excessively tired during those first couple of days once you do get back into your routine. Please take what you've learned in this episode and use it to adjust your strategy for your runDisney race training. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things in the right balance so you can finish strong, not broken. And if you want personalized guidance specific to your race, your injury history, your running background, and your goals, that's exactly what we do inside Stronger, Faster, Finisher. You'll get step-by-step instructions and a proven system to help you train smarter from start to finish. Join the waitlist today to be the first to know when it opens next. That's all for now. Talk to you soon.